All right, so the simulation finished. Turns out, though, that there is a bug in the sparse pyrosolver, at least as of the time of this recording. And speaking of the time of this recording, I'm actually recording this after I finished the lesson. I had somebody write into me pointing out this problem, and they're totally right, and it's totally missing from the pyrosolver, and I'm totally going to tell you what that thing is in a minute. But I also just want to say, first of all, that we're going to fix it now. It's a really easy fix. It will be rolled into Houdini soon, and at that point I will remove this chapter from the lesson. But all this is to say that the rest of the lesson, I did not have the benefit of this fix, so my renders are going to look pretty good, but they won't look as good as yours will now, because you're going to actually have it working correctly. And what am I talking about? Well, on a black background, we actually don't see the issue, or at least not much. But if we, let's say, chose a frame, tap back here, press D to go into our viewport and go to light, we can see there's like a dark edge around everything. And sometimes the dark even like bleeds in further. So that's not good. In fact, I have a second little view thing here where you can see it kind of develop in action. Like earlier on, you know, it's nice and light around the edges because it's a thin volume. It shouldn't be dark. So this is, you might be tempted to think this is just a viewport problem. This is an actual problem. What's happening is the color volumes that colorize the density of the smoke are not at full color along the edges. If you have any compositing experience, you might be familiar with images that have pre-multiplied colors, and then if you multiply them again by their alpha, they become darker, and that's what this is essentially. To reiterate, we want the color volume to extend beyond the density. It will only be rendered wherever there is density, but we need it to sample the color at those edges and have it be the full color and not some fading off color. So the solver is supposed to take care of that for us. It's supposed to extend the color beyond the edges here and make sure that there is color there and that we don't get these issues. If you still don't believe me, right now we have the shadows on. If we turn shadows off, we can still see this dark area. Earlier on, it is pure. This problem hasn't fully manifested yet. But as the simulation goes on, it gets worse. And again, it looks interesting in its own way, but there shouldn't ever be dark color. All we've ever done is introduced pure color into this. We never introduced dark, you know, edges and stuff like that. We should only be getting that from our shadows. So that's a general description of what's wrong. I understand that it will be fixed soon in the pyrosolver, but for now, we can actually fix it ourselves. And it's pretty easy, and it's actually kind of fun. It's fun because it means that we get to mess around with the granular nature of DOPs. In particular, you know, this used to work. It worked in the regular pyrosolver. Now, the regular pyrosolver is actually a bunch of microsolvers that do various things, mostly combustion related. But this depends on what we're looking at. Some extra stuff. But it all ends up feeding into the lower level smoke solver, which is for all intents and purposes the pyrosolver. But at a deeper level, the main mechanics of the simulation, the fluid sims, is it being done in the smoke solver. The reason why I tell you that is drop a smoke solver down. That's the inner one that we want. All right, right click and hold it, go to allow editing of contents. Now you can see this little lock that's usually closed here is now open. That means we can go inside and mess stuff up, and we're going to. For now, at the time of this recording, color operations is this entire box up here. We're not going to get into the specifics of what it's doing, but you know, it is essentially taking care of the various color things that it needs to do to make sure that those black lines, those black edges don't happen. So all we really need to do is delete everything else. So this box we want, again, the color one, so delete everything else, like so. Now, a few nodes will be left behind. They're just like the inputs and stuff like that. They don't matter. All you need to do is click this orange thing. Right now, one of your other nodes will have it. I guess apparently that. But you click this here, which is the export flag. That means this is now the output of the overall node. And this is the functionality that we want to reuse. So come back out here, and now we can just hook this up into here. So find the advection input. It's throwing an error only because it thinks this is the actual smoke solver and that it needs an actual DOP object to solve. It doesn't actually need one. In fact, the sim will run just fine with it throwing that error. But if you want to, just for completeness, just point your smoke solver into it. It doesn't really matter. Now the error goes away at least. That's it. We've now modified, we've grafted on a piece of the old pyrosolver onto the newer sparse pyrosolver. And that's a totally valid and legitimate thing to do, because the context on the inside is a dynamics context, and the context on the outside is a dynamics context. The inside is just a bunch of microsolvers, as you can see, and that's what these are. There's no difference that the microsolvers happen to be inside of a node, because their result is this. So it's a lot of explanation for something that's going to be taken out of this lesson eventually. But let's just take a look. I'm going to run out. Well, I'm going to save the new version of this now that we have that, and now we'll take a look at the result. All right, it's all done, and we can see it just feels a lot brighter now. The colors are more pure. They're not artificially being weirded up by the darkness creeping around the sides. Same thing if we go into the non-shadowed mode here, you can see it's just the pure colors. Yeah. So to reiterate, I am going to re-render all this just for the preview for the class and for the final result to look at and stuff. But yeah, for the rest of the lesson, which I've already recorded and that you're already watching, the volumes will look a little darker because they were using the bugged version. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So onward with the lesson.